it makes my little redneck heart happy.
I grew up going to monster truck and drag racing. I mean, come on.
It's great. I love it,
man. Hey, we're live. We're live. I see it. It says we're live.
We're
monster
live.
truck and drag racing. I mean, come on.
Right.
Well, there
Saturday, Sunday, not Sunday. Live. If you're watching this on Sunday, it's not live. It's after the live. Monster truck and drag racing. I mean, come on.
Oh my gosh! Now I got
Saturday, Sunday. Not Sunday.
There it is.
What are we doing?
Yeah, I can hear myself bouncing back at myself.
I know, I was bouncing the feedback. And, it was just amazing. It was live. Oh, yeah.
So yeah, you make my little redneck heart so happy, because you do that stuff, and it's for me, it's awesome to connect with you like that, because I don't always have to be so proper.
I think a lot of people are surprised to find that I'm that I'm really just such a level of a geek, but I mean, I think, my wrestling career, a lot of it was about connecting with people. And I think that's one thing I've always been able to do even before that. And it's just like, I can connect with people about all sorts of different stuff. And for you and I, we always have just connected about some of the rednecky South stuff, and I mean, but the thing about being a redneck or whatever is, the redneck aspect, for long is like people's like, oh, that's a Southern thing. I'm going, no, that was in Northern Idaho, it was in Eastern Washington. It's everywhere I've ever been. There's rednecks, and I grew up right before we went live. I was talking about, I grew up watching monster truck racing, and Mud was at the tractor pulls and mud racing, where they would like race through the water, like the mud, but tractor pulls I always thought was the coolest thing. And motorbike, motocross and NASCAR, all that kind of stuff. So
oh my god, have you seen the swamp boats, the swamp trucks? With the really
that's what I'm talking about, swamp trucks.
I don't see it as much.
I grew up remember, you don't see that stuff as much anymore, but when I grew up, we didn't have a lot of cable, and so a lot of the entertainment now, you can find everything. Like I'll sit and watch marble racing because it looks cool, but now it's crazy. I would just be like, oh, this is swamp truck racing. I'm just gonna watch this, and all they're doing is just like hauling ass through mud puddles, essentially, like in the swamp. But I thought that was the coolest thing ever. When you're like a 10-year-old kid, that's the neatest thing.
That is the coolest thing ever.
Okay, I'm 46 years old, and it is still the neatest thing ever.
It's still pretty cool. Yeah, I think the only thing I don't find cool is like the charcoal and stuff I see people do, like, because I ride bikes and I'll see guys like pull up and like they'll just charcoal a bicyclist, and I'm like, you're a dick.
That's a dick.
But that's like the antithesis of everything I grew up on, though. So but man, if it's got a big engine and it's got big tires and it goes fast, really sport straight, I'm probably into it.
Probably.
So sitting out in our backyard during the early spring, it can get real quiet here, and you can hear Tucson drag strip going, and I'm like,
oh yeah,
we need to go down the road.
Yeah. Before COVID, I was actually talking about taking my son, because he's 7 now, right? And I was like, we're gonna go out to Tucson Raceway, and we're gonna go see some dirt track, like dirt circle track, or we're gonna go see some drag, and that all died. So when this all opens up, we can go. We're gonna get some earplugs and head on down there. I tell you what.
Heck yeah. Right before all this happened last summer, we went to the Average Joe 4x4 Jeep contest.
Okay.
That was awesome. They hold it out in Casa Grande. That was a lot of fun watching.
See, I'm not willing to spend my money on that kind of stuff. But man, I respect those people for their hobby, because what's funny, what we do, like they will talk about us being complete geeks, and I'm always like, yo, you're just as much of a geek. Your geekdom is just different. It's like fantasy football. People like there was the meme for a long time, like fantasy football is just D&D for jocks. And I'm like, yeah, it really is. It's why I stay away from fantasy football, because when I play Dungeons and Dragons, I'm like, how can I optimize this character? I'm the guy that plays like Fallout on my computer, and I'm like, it takes me 30 minutes to make my character, because I go, well, okay, my perception could be higher, and that's that was SCA fighting for me too. Like, how could I fine tune myself, right? So I think that's the best part about, I one thing about the SCA, like, I'm pretty much, most people don't consider me like a redneck, my redneckiness, right? But there is there's a somebody or something in the SCA. Like, we have every bit of walk of life, and the one thing we all bring together is our love for, either maybe it's just the SCA, because maybe you got in the SCA for fighting, right? Or maybe you got into it for the arts, or maybe you got into it because of a girl or a dude, whatever. And then so maybe it's just the SCA that kind of keeps us together. It's not, maybe you have a bit of a love of the medieval side of stuff, but all of our have different levels, right? I mean, even the three of us have probably could say our level of medievalism, as I like to say it to Uther in the West, and he cringes. I go, it's a real word, I promise you, but it's but the level of our involvement in the periodness of what we do, so that's changed. Because when I started, when I was 15, 16, 17, 18, boy, like Ivan and Yanka, you had Ivan on your first week, and we always talk about, man, we need to just pull out pictures and go, hey, check out my suck. This was me, when I started. The people come into Roffenheim, and I go, we didn't build this over one day. This took us 10 years.
Yeah.
Or whatever, and we're not even done.
Yes.
Like, it's still not even to where we want it. That's what people don't even understand. We're always like, yeah, well, we could do this better. We could do that better. We could still do this. And one of these days we're going to have that. And, we're always just trying to outdo our own selves. It's a competition about that, I guess, Yeah.
Ironically, I was having a conversation with someone I work with who, she laughs at me over my geek, and she's like, you guys invest a lot of money in this. And I'm like, well, yes, but it's over a very long period of time. A lot of us that have invested in these period encampments and our tents. I remember going to events with an 88 Chevy Sprint, two boys in a nylon earth pimple,
Yeah.
Chevy Chevette.
World of different.
But,
now and then.
I know people who spend plenty of money doing that. We were just talking about, we were just talking about Jeeping, right? Or like rock crawlers. You think those guys, you break an axle, or you break a shock. And that's the difference between the SCA is a lot of our investment is like a one-time thing. It can be. If you're like us, and like I'm Wolfgrim, and I'm like, oh, this is my Maggie cup. This is my Maggie cup too, and it's gold, because he helped me get it fixed. But there's some of us that we're just always buying new things, or maybe we're always trying to get new things. We want the new helmet, or we want the new sword, or we want the new this, and but I'm in the same tent I've been in for 15 years, 16, 17, 18, 20 years. That was a one-time investment. I would be, how many Coleman tents would we be through by now, right?
Oh, Lord.
Right.
So you mentioned starting in the SCA 15, 16. What drew you?
Well, I was a Dungeons and Dragons geek, I was a long-haired kid. I had hair to my ass, and I'm a metalhead, and I was, I grew up reading Dragonlance and Forgotten Realms books, or Elric and Melniboné and things like that. And I always thought it would be, I loved combat sports, and for what it was for me is the first time I saw a demo, and it actually wasn't SCA. It was actually for the other group I ended up participated with for a long, long time, and the ECS, and they were doing live steel stuff. But it was the fighting, I mean, as a 15, 16-year-old kid, it was fighting. It was a cool thing. I mean, and, which is funny because like I'm not really like I don't seek fighting, right? But I love martial arts, and so I just looked at it as that. And I had a lot of friends that we all just kind of joined in, and we started participating really well, like a lot, you know. And I just fell in love with the sport of it, and then I was always kind of interested in the history, but the more and more I started to get to know things, right, the more. I mean, it's interesting because like this 1990, 1990, and our knowledge of what we like when it comes to medieval stuff in 1990 is completely different than what we know now, right? I mean, if you said, "Oh, I'm a Viking in 1990," you're thinking Conan or something, you know, like, you know, and you're like, yeah, okay, you know. And but nowadays you say that, and it's like the wall has fallen, and there's so much really amazing information that we're starting to get. We're still learning, right? Or you know, I was just talking to a really good friend of mine, author Chris Patterson, this morning. We were talking, and we were chatting about how much we're still finding out about pre-Neolithic stuff, right? Like, and how we just still don't know. And it's what it's always going to be with all of this stuff. And I mean, I go back and look at pictures of me when I was 16 or 18, and what I was wearing is completely different than what I wear now. And my idea of Viking in 1996 is completely different than Viking Rus in 2006, and it's completely different than 2016. You know, and it's really crazy for me to think about those numbers, right? Like, oh my gosh, like 96, 2006, 2016, now we're 2020. I've been doing this forever, right? I mean, almost all my life. And some people, they go hunting all the time, or they go they spend a lot of money on their cars and tuning their cars, and they go do car shows, or they do cosplay and they spend a lot of money on their cosplay stuff. Or you know, this is one of those interesting hobbies where as I was going along and I was fighting and I was just falling in love with it, I started to just discover all these artistic side effects, right? All these things that everybody else was doing.
Yeah.
And you know, I say, you've heard me say it a lot. I mean, it's actually because like on my screen right now it says Duke Edward, and I only did that. I put that on for now, but I mean, you've known me for 2 decades, and I never introduced myself as such, right? It's just Ed. I don't care who you are, what you are, where we are. If you're in my camp, I'm just Ed. If you don't know who I am, it's my fault. I haven't done my job, and but I find as we've gone along, it's just that's just who I am, and that's how it goes. And but for me, I'm the least talented person in the room a lot of times, as long as we're not talking about fighting, right?
I notice you are what I would term an artist cultivator.
Yeah, a patron of the arts.
Yes,
Patron, yes.
because I have watched you, and you have done it to me. The wind-up key. We'll be sitting around talking about something, and you'll get super excited about something, and then I'm like, "Oh, we can do."
So yeah, we can do this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I have a sword that was made for me by Master Brand, right? And I think he'd only made like 1 or 2 swords before mine. And we were sitting at a Penzic, and he had made the comment of like, "Well, if you ever win crown, I'll make you a sword. You know, your knight sword," because I didn't have one. I never had got one, and the problem was I didn't want to go buy my sword at a knife shop. You know, like I wanted my sword like to be if I wanted to kill somebody, like if I had to, like if it, you know. Ivan and I have plans, okay? We have a zombie apocalypse plan. We have a Dies of Fire plan. We have a Velociraptor plan, because you should always have that, you know. So, and a sword is useful in all these situations. I needed a sword. Brand says this, and his wife evidently knew. He didn't realize it. Or maybe he did. He just played right into it, right? So this is a patron of the art thing. And I'm out there, and I'm essentially using Penzic as my training for crown. And and he goes, "I'll make it for you." I go, "Oh, all right, cool." We like deal and shit on it, right? I get up to walk off to go do something, and this wife looks at me and go, "You know, you're going to be starting to make a sword in 2 weeks, right?" Like, I mean, and sure enough, I won that crown in like 2 weeks, right? So, but like, yeah, you know, in our kingdom, you bring that up, but I mean, that's always kind of how I've been. If I could shine a light on somebody for their art by just being me, then I will, right? And it's not difficult to be me because I wear this skin every day. So it's just which version of me is it going to be, right? Is it the version that is like I could just sit and not talk to anybody for a while, or is it the guy who everybody sees as king, or which? But I love to be a patron of the arts and shine the light. And yeah, I spun up a few people, and I like to think that a few laurels out there have happened because they made something for me, or they or I made sure people saw their stuff. So
That's
but I
awesome.
mean, it's the same way with service too, right? I mean, I've done it with service just as much. Like, hey, this person, they're doing this. But arts, it's people don't like doing art. Just I wasn't a fool to realize very early that people hate artistic tournaments of sorts, right? Because fighting is objective; it's not subjective for the most part, right? It's between two people, and it's my job to convince them that my shot was good, and I can do that by force. But with arts, it's subjective, right? You might like an artist, you know, I like Frazetta. Some people like Boris Vallejo. That's a perfect example. And and so that it's a, huh?
I kind of like both.
What? Yeah, well, I mean, you're allowed to like both, but there are people who like, I mean, for me, it's like one or the other, or maybe they don't like one as much, right? And I'm more in that camp. But that's it just shows the subjectivity of art. And I have done a few artistic showcases because those are more fun, because when you do those, we get to just geek out on the art.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that is exactly what I love to do. I love to just geek out on fighting. I like to geek out on the SCA. I love to geek out on somebody's art or what they're doing service wise or whatever's going on in their life. I love to just geek out. And so I figured that out pretty early on. And I was like, well, how do I help people showcase stuff if they don't want to be artists? Like Roland, James Supp, who's on Antique Roadshow now, right?
And it gets to
Perfect example. This is a guy who doesn't want to compete. And it's like, whoa, how do I get this guy to show his stuff off?
Yeah.
And you slyly get him to make you something, and then you go around and show it to everybody. You know. All right. Hey, I need a box. Can somebody build me a box? And then show everybody that box.
Oh my gosh. I was telling somebody that story about the rubber chicken and that court where we did that spiel. And so for those that are tuning in, Facebook Live, little backstory. When His Grace was king, I had made a chest, only my dimensions, because Ed's substantially taller than I am. The entire family is. He asked me to make him a second one, only he wanted it to be an inch taller.
No.
I've regretted saying that forever, by the way. Well, because you didn't make it just an inch taller. You made it like an inch in every way.
I did.
And so, like, you got like, which one do I stack on the top of the other one? Yeah. So
my bad.
It's fine. It's my OCD enemy.
Oh no. I swear one of these days I'm going to trade out those boxes with what I do now.
Yeah, no, they're great boxes though.
I look back on that time and I'm like, Domhnall still
actually
have the very first one.
Well, what's probably gonna end up happening for me is I'll probably end up making my own chests because I'm starting to feel confident enough in them, and then I'll end up gifting those away to somebody who doesn't have that stuff, you know. So
that works.
And that's more fun part about the SCA, right? Is like,
yes,
I had this thing and I've had it made for me and it was part of my life, and now I'm going to give it to you, right? A tunic or a chain, or there are some things I just don't give away like ever. But like there's some things where you're like, okay, like I've made another one, and there are other people who don't. Wolfgram talks about it, you know, you're 5 feet or you're 10 feet, and they don't have that, you know, to enhance their tent, their 10 feet of their tent. And those are great things you can give away.
Oh yeah.
Can do that.
See, like you, I do the same thing, stuff that I don't just throw things out. I look for people who need those items, but I don't need them anymore.
Yeah, I mean, being a hoarder, I'm a bit of a hoarder, and I'm a reformed hoarder, right? So like now I put things in like, okay, I'm never gonna wear this thing, or I'm never using this anymore, so I'm gonna put this away. And then what I end up doing is like, we used to have the college kids over, and I would be like, here, all this, have at it. And I would just sit back and watch watch them just rip through everything. It was like great. So yeah, but that's the one blessing about what we're in right now with the SCA. No events. And you're like, how blessing? No events, no fighting. And here I am, I'm a Duke. Fighting is my thing. Right. But we in the SCA have this amazing time. I'm sitting back as a fan of the arts and getting to see the most amazing stuff I've gotten to see with, and spend time looking at it. Like, because at a war, we'll have an artistic showcase, or an event, we have but there's always a finite amount of time I get to spend. And now I can do it in my own home. In just a pair of shorts, in a tank top, or whatever, and I can watch a showcase online, or I can go to a collegium that somebody is holding. Like we've had multiples that have gone international out of like at least two or three out of this barony, the oldest barony in the known world. Just saying. And there's just amazing stuff being done. And me being a lover of the arts, we're always off running around and doing events. And I know you're a deadline girl, right? I don't know about you, but I know you are. So, and I'm a procrastinator too. But one of the things I love right now is like, okay, I mean, we have a deadline, but I also don't have to go to these events. I'm not, and I shouldn't say have to, right? But sometimes they are a have to. And every time you're gone on a weekend or whatever, maybe you had a busy week and the last thing you're going to go do is spend time in your shop, right? Or, whatever. Maybe you just want to veg and watch an hour of a TV show and be done for the day and go to bed. Or maybe you're going to work out, and then you're going to do an hour of it. And then, because you worked out so hard that now you can't do anything else, and then you're going to go to bed. And that's usually my life. And so now I can I can savor that time. I can go spend time doing arts. And I've seen people doing stuff now that they're always like, I didn't have time. I didn't have time to do it. And now I do, right? And I think we had that shock for that first 2 months.
Yeah.
I'm going to be liberal on time, like 2 months, maybe 3. So, I mean, it depends on how fast you are to adapting to time, to change, right? Some people can't adapt to change quickly. People we know, I'm not going to say their names, but we know people who they don't adapt well to change, right? And so they didn't maybe do anything for those first 4 weeks because they hadn't adapted yet. And then there were some people who were like right away, were like, more time, I'm just going to knit like crazy or whatever.
Well,
yeah, and that's the neat thing. I mean, gosh, you started this thing. There's a bunch of these really amazing videos. We're able to get connected with people in the society and our own kingdoms and areas. Never. I mean, I like to think that there are people that have been able to watch some of the interviews I've done that have never heard me speak. Maybe they've only heard about my reigns, or maybe they've only seen me in those reigns and they've never ever approached me outside of that, right? Because Waffenheim's a scary place.
Okay, so let's be fair. I met you in your first reign. You had just won, you had just stepped up. It was your very first reign. And I am not a bashful person by nature. I'm a full-blown extrovert. I'll talk to anybody. But I remember listening to you thinking, oh my God, this man is larger than life. And not really being intimidated, but going, I think you'll overwhelm me.
That's a compliment. For being a guy who stuttered for so much of his life, I mean, I think it's neat that people consider me to be a really great orator.
That you
Yes, you are. You know, I
And,
can hear your voice across a field, and I'm like, "Oh, Ed's here. Where's he at?"
yeah. And it's like and there's like the joke is like which tone of voice is it? Is it the king voice? Or is it like the Duke voice, or is it just like the, hey, what's up, man? We're gonna go to Monster Truck. Is it that guy, right? So, right, it is like, and Magdalene, she's always like, how do you do all these voices all the time? And I go, I'm just a geek. I watch a lot of TV as a kid, I guess, or something. I don't know. I had a lot of alone time, reading books.
Careful how deep we go into that one.
I had a lot of alone time reading books because I had a sick sister, and and that that kind of I had to come up with the voices for these characters in my head and stuff. So
well, and it's funny, speaking of your sister, both of you, and I've met your mom, and I look at y'all's mom, and then I look at the two of you, and you're both, I mean, just truly larger than life. And for me, you're one of my legends. We all have them in the SCA. There's somebody we wanted to meet. There's somebody we became friends with. But when we're outside of our friend circle, we hear, oh, Duke Ed, and you know exactly who they're talking about. And so when they say legends of the SCA, you are one of them. I mean, there's no mistaking when you're around. But you do something very interesting. And it took me a long time to realize what you do. You do more service than most people realize.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
no, it's not a secret around us.
And it's kind of funny because people don't see it. I do, because suddenly I see you're over there rounding up 3-4 squires. Come on, guys, we got to go get this pavilion up.
Yeah.
Or
and you look at that as your basic existence job, as who you are is, well, we got to get some things done. So that's the point.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm not always the guy who does it.
No.
I'm like, mainly because I've always been like, well, if I do it all the time, then nobody else learns how to do it.
Exactly.
But I'm also the leader. My team in professional life, my team, Ed never asks us to do anything he won't do.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I think, one of the things I know you pointed out to me in a discussion once was that you saw me do. It's not even just that. It's the like somebody will maybe be talking about doing something that's service, and it's encouraging them to do it, right? Because a lot of people are afraid to step into that. Mm-hmm. I've been almost every kingdom officer and baronial officer there is at some point or another in my career, and I'm like, I don't want to be like, there's one job I don't want, right? And I won't take it, so because I just don't have time for it. And I have a huge household, and I have 2 kids, and I'm a manager at work, and I'm just too busy. And but I've been webmaster, and I've been a marshal, I've been a herald, and of multiple different varieties. Even like fireball and stuff like that. So it's service is just a thing. I think especially if you love what you're part of, it doesn't
natural.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like a chore.
No,
mm-hmm.
It's I need to give back.
I also know what I'm good at, and I also know what I'm not good at, and so I keep my nose out of what I don't think I'm good at.
So that brings me to the next thing. A lot of people don't, unless they've spent time in Roffenheim and hanging out with you, they don't realize that you are a fabulous storyteller.
That's my thing. Yeah. I mean, I blame my dad and my mom, I think. And I've loved oral tradition. I grew up, hippie parents, and we didn't have a lot of books, but I mean, I remember hearing stories, and I had a grandmother that could tell them, you know, all the way to her grave at like 96, she could tell me stories from her childhood. Like her brain was just like a razor, like it never forgot anything. I promise you, I'm not that. I've been hitting the head too many times and chairs and all these other things. I mean, being a pro wrestler is probably the worst thing I ever do for my brain. And probably fighting the SCA is the second worst thing. So, you know, but I mean, I love stories of heroes, and I don't do traditional storytelling in like the way of, like I'm not as eloquent as maybe Wander or even my brother-in-law Uther. He is so more elegant, I think, when it comes. But I'm more of a message storyteller. Like what I'm trying to convey is a message of something, either it be hope or, you know, and every time I held a court in this SCA, it was always some kind of, what was the message today? And that is just pro wrestling. I was just cutting promos, you know, instead of me telling you, listen, man, this Saturday night, me and Ruin, you know, I've been watching you, man. And every week you've been dogging me, and you got that dog, and I want that dog. And I'm going to get that dog no matter what. And every week you're screwing me and making it so I can't get that dog. Well, this week I've talked to the commissioner, and you and me are in a steel cage. There's no way you can get away from me.
Take it. You ain't got nothing.
And it's the same kind of principle, right? So it's like, what's the message? What am I trying to sell? And be it like a dream, or I want everybody to recruit, right? Because like, I mean, if we in the society went and just for 1 year just took one other person, we raised them like our own little baby bird, and you know, then at the end of the that year we said, okay, you do the same thing I did for you, and I'm going to go get another person. The SCA just, you know, it's just exponential growth. And that was kind of with Rothenheim. I love to sit around the fire, and luckily I have a really good, you know, I have 3 really awesome partners in going with my mad ideas, and the rest of the house also. I mean, I always know if I've done something really good if Wander says it, you know, or if I get Wander, Ari, and Yanka all on board at the same time, we're either going to go down a really bad path to an awesome place, or we're just going to go to an awesome place right away. So, and that's usually kind of like how it goes. Yeah. So I appreciate that you recognize the storytelling. I just don't do it like other people do. You're not going to get me singing. And a lot of times you're not going to get me telling you stories about some myth, or I'm not going to retell other stories a lot. I love to tell stories about the SCA, about the people in the SCA. And that's my favorite way to king, is to tell stories about the person that I'm giving an award to.
Yes.
And that's tricky. But that I think that one I figured out. So
the pro wrestling really helped you with the theatrics of reigning, didn't it?
and I think having the theater as a babysitter as a kid helped. Like, you know, I mean, it really was. I mean, my sister and I, my parents met doing Bucking the Tiger at community theater, and really young. We were really young. Like, they would be doing plays, and I would be sitting in the audience while they rehearsed, reading my deities and demigods, you know, over and over and over again. You know, my daughter has it now. She reads it over and over again. And it was like those stories of heroes and gods, right? But I'm terrible at sometimes retelling those. I can weave them through, but don't ask me to like tell you the story of when Loki was a horse, and, you know.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I can tell you some of them. Some of them are really funny, but it's just, I don't know. It's just never been my thing. For me, it's always about what's the message I'm trying to sell. And a lot of times they're trying to sell hope, I think, right? Or Stardust.
Stardust is a good one, yeah.
Well,
Yeah, I mean,
you are probably one of the best promoters of the SCA that I've ever seen, because you do those storytellings. You don't, it isn't about regurgitating what you've heard, it's what you've lived. So and to me, that's what makes your stories so much better is this is people I know. This is things
Yeah.
that actually happened, and only now it's being told in a story in such a way that it's almost as if I've been there when it happened.
Yeah, or you're living it at this time, at this moment. You are part of the story I'm telling at this time.
Yes.
I think you were around a couple years ago at Estrella, maybe 2-3 years ago, and it was like we did a Saturday night scald thing, and I remember we ended the whole night, and it was basically like one of the last things we did was a story. I just kind of did a speech, and I think that's more what I don't know if I call myself a storyteller so much as a
orator.
Just an orator. I just talk about things. There's a philosophy. I like to talk about philosophy. I'm a great lover of philosophy. My sister, she likes to tell everybody one of my greatest weapons is people look at me and they think I'm just a big dumb jock, and they don't realize that there's this super high IQ inside that'll ravage you with years of university philosophy classes.
Yeah, I can see that. So Blossom says that you are a raconteur and a good one. I'm gonna have to look. Oh, you don't have your glasses on.
No, I got them right here. Give me a second.
I'm gonna have to go look this word up because
that's she's not wrong. Probably that's an interesting. I haven't ever thought about myself that. I'm not gonna
raconteur.
Not racketeering, but don't tell that because
because that requires a lot of planning. And we're really not good at that.
A lot of planning. But I've been watching a lot of Ozark lately, so maybe I know how to move numbers. I mean, I'm just saying.
Okay.
Just let it happen. So I got something that was kind of been not gnawing, but peeking around at the edges. Duke Edward, all the different roles you present to the world, how much of that 15-year-old is in those roles? How much of that 15-year-old is in your SCA game day to day?
So when the one that talks about Stardust, that is absolutely right. There's still that, I'd say 70-80% of it still, right? Because 20% of it's jaded and it's seen things. I've seen banishments and I've seen people be petty and bullshitty to each other. Bullshitty is a word. I say it now. It's a
it
real
is
word.
now. It is now.
Real word. I mean, I've seen some stuff that just really, it's like, man, did your mama not raise you good? Like
it's like, that's a real question right now. That's a real question sometimes.
Like they do unto others, right? The golden rule. And but
were they doing it?
I just don't. I mean, I am not a saint, and I certainly have never. I can't say I've never like just stepped on big time, and I own it. And, and I mean, but I try to do everything with dignity. Yeah. And that was always something. I mean, I grew up loving Singing in the Rain. That's a movie I love, and dignity, always dignity, right? And that's a 15-year-old in me still, right? Okay. I'm a nerd. I was a nerd, and my nerd friends were always getting picked on. Yeah. And I learned how to fight. And my mom said I was the defender of the righteous. And unfortunately for those that picked on your friends, you just had a really big sword, and you really knew how to use it. And I want to protect everybody that I can. A lot of times, if you're kind of in our family in the SCA, I can't protect everybody, but I can protect their hearts. And so a lot of times I'm always trying to embolden their hearts and their minds in what they can be in the SCA. I want them to realize that, right? I mean, we've all had our dark days, and I certainly had them. I mean, especially coming up before my first reign. But I think the more we encourage each other and embolden each other's hearts and in that love of what we have, then we absolutely can do anything. And that's something that people need to take away from their day-to-day in the SCA. The SCA doesn't stop for me when I leave an event. I mean, I'm not a knight. I don't like, oh, well, I'm not at this event anymore. I'm not a knight of society. It's like, no, I'm a knight of society when I'm at Safeway and I see a little old lady and she's got a flat tire. You know, I'm going to change that fucking tire. Right?
A lot of people don't realize that.
You know, I mean, I've come home multiple times late, you know, you just went up to the store to get milk. And I'm like, yeah. And I got there and there was a lady had a flat tire and I changed the tire.
You know, it's funny because people talk about the good in the world, and in the SCA, we see it. You know, there's actual physical representation of the honor and the chivalry.
Well, we overtly encourage.
You know, yeah, we have something in the SCA that most people go to religion for, and I'm not bad mouthing religion.
No.
But but both of you nodded your heads as I said that, right? It instantly made sense. Maybe that's why some people call my courts church, right? They also happen on Sundays a lot. So
church of ed.
Church of ed. But yeah, there's not a falsehood. That belief of what we are, where I want everyone to realize it. I always just want that people to realize how great they can be. And it's such a it's still, even when I was like 15, 16, 17, it was always such a disappointment when somebody had so much potential at something and I could see it and there was nothing I could do, and I still to this day can't do to make them believe it. Right. And when I took on Dom, right, and as my squire, and it was like, that dude just had so much heart, and I was like, I could teach everything else.
Yeah.
You know, I can't teach heart. But I was just like, listen, man, just believe in me. I believe in you. I know what we're doing here. So just stick to the system. And that, I wish more and more people would realize that, or maybe it's like I wish more people could find others that could help them realize their greatness, I suppose. Right. I mean, because I can't be that for everybody. I wish I could be. And but
we need to be better at shoring each other up.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we have a really amazing barony down here because of it. There's so much support.
Yes.
That's in here, and you know, that's the one thing. Maybe that's why I grew up. I mean, other than my father being an artist, my dad being an artist, but like this barony was all about the arts for so long. There really wasn't a whole lot of kings coming out of Ysgithr before I took the sword from the stone, and that made, so my appreciation, it was like everybody was a laurel down here, you know, and I was just like, there's so many amazing artists down here, and there was so much amazing stuff being done. And even in 1990 to 2000, right, the arts were still great. And 2000 to 2010, the arts exploded, right? You know, the internet now, man, makes it so like, oh, I want to learn how to bone carve. Okay, let's YouTube that, and let's get online with somebody that can show me, and you know, or you know, it's just it's.
And around this barony, it's make a phone call. Does anybody know how to reach out to Ari?
Yeah. Well, I mean, and like the other day I'm on Instagram, and I get sent a link of somebody, and they're literally doing like my training stuff, right? And I'm like, now they're doing it a little wrong, so I have to help them along. You know, they got the numbering a little off, but I know that they've got it from the same like nugget of thought. And I'm like, okay, here's some stuff we could do with this, right? But it's really neat. It's like, I didn't teach this person this thing. I can't even find a connection from me to them. So how, and there's not like a lot of video or anything of me out there teaching it anyway. So, because that's just never been, I'm a personal guy, you know, I like to teach personally, and I like to build those relationships. But also, to be a good coach, I think you have to learn, your student. Your student's got to learn you.
Yeah.
Because not everybody's the same. Right, you know, and but yeah, I think that's a long story short to answer your question. Yeah, I think that 15-year-old, he's still there. I still love it. I don't know that I love the fighting as much because my body doesn't like it as much. I've also never. It's weird. I have a really interesting relationship with fighting, in that I don't love it, but I love it. So fighting's not hard, it's just hard. And I don't love to fight, but I do. So I think it's a weird thing. Like, I don't remember, like some people can go, oh yeah, I did this thing, and I did this and this and this and this. And I'm like, that's not me. I hit the guy. you know, and I just don't remember fights for the most part. I may remember the beginning or I may remember the end, but I don't remember how we got there. I mean, it's not that I don't remember it. I just can't tell you it. Like I can't explain it, right? It's all Ridley Scott, shaky cam, you know, or something. So, and I certainly don't remember war battles. And I think it's, you know, as more and more I've read about soldiers, the more and more I've understood this is probably a natural thing as I've gotten older to just not enjoy it as much in the same way. That being said, there are things I love about it, like, because that's where heroes are made. Like I get to see the most heroic, crazy valor, stupid, are you an idiot? Like where you're literally like, really? Really, you just did that? And then I was like, but then it's me looking back and was like, yeah, I totally just did that, right?
Was that cool?
Like, so
Yeah.
was that cool, man? Yeah. So, or one of my guys or somebody will do something, and you know, it's just like that's it though. I mean, it's also the only place I've ever met where I can meet somebody on the complete opposite side of the country. First time I met him, and I was like, we knew each other all our lives, you know.
That is definitely, now, you know, we talk about the wrestling, we talk about the mud bogs and the mud racing and the Jeeps, and the SCA is probably one of the few organizations I've ever been around that you literally have an instant welcome. You may have just
Yeah, I mean,
person, you know.
I mean, there are plenty nerds, plenty of the geeks or people that are just they're introverts, right? And saying hello to somebody is not their thing. But in a group of like 50 of us, there's gonna be at least one of us that's an extrovert, like you, right? Because you're way more of an extrovert than I'm an omnivert. I can go both ways, right? I could prefer to be an introvert, believe it or not, and then but the extrovert in me is like the actor or the show, right? It's like it's a role I can take on, but it's not a natural one. At least I don't ever feel it is. Maybe it is. Maybe it's like I'm just bipolar and I have to be both things. I don't know. But you, on the other hand, are always just like, get him up, Billy, let's go, come on, I'm gonna make you some food or whatever, you know. And it's like, yep, all right, let there at them, because they're gonna
Food fixes everything, man.
yeah.
I feed the world. If that's
Now, what I always appreciate is that somebody will like meet somebody, like they'll go talk, and then they'll bring them to me, like so. Then they'll bring them to me, and then it's like, all right, that's my turn.
Oh, yeah.
So
I set this up well.
yeah, so like I'll second face them about the SC. Let me tell you what, right? You know, so but also like some people, I'm not the guy for them to talk to, right?
Yeah.
And I know that, like I'm probably because maybe I'm like the scariest person they've ever met, right? You know, like because of I'm giant big white dude, and like I'm kind of, I mean, I'm not like Uther big, but I'm not little, right? You know, and that's, you know, my smile, even like to some people, my smile is like, oh, what, he's gonna do something to me, you know. So,
My butt cheeks are gonna hurt. Yeah.
you know, so I mean, yeah, I think but it's the most welcoming. I've never gone to a place in the SCA and not had somebody welcome me. And I won't even be I won't bust out my kit or anything, you know what I mean? It's just me, just t-shirt and shorts or something, right? And it's just they're super like welcome. And it's like a test you can play. Like you go to an area, and that's what always baffles me when I hear about somebody coming to like a fighter practice and they're like, oh man, nobody down there was talking to me. I'm like, well, one, some of these guys are just out there to fight. So
They're focused.
the question is just, who are you talking to, right? But you know, yeah, I mean, or sometimes, or are you hard to approach, right? And unfortunately, that's true. I mean, some people, they don't realize they're really hard to approach, or they have their nose in their phone all the time, anyways, or whatever. That's one thing I really try to do at the society events is my phone stays somewhere else, and I, you know, at least I want to be present in whatever we're doing. So
yeah. So speaking of being present in what you're doing, Roffenheim, you guys have become the most phenomenal demonstration house the last few years. And I know you guys have been working towards it. So
Roffenheim's a really fun story because a lot of it's an accident.
We're amazing.
No, like it's not like that. So like we were kind of hanging out. None of us had a, Ivan, Yanka, Osa, and myself, like we didn't have a household or anything. And there was a few other, like Wander, we were all just kind of camping together. And we finally were like, we should just do something together. And I was like, yeah, that's a great idea. And it was like 10 years ago, this past November, I think it was. And we were like, okay, sound great. And then we still hadn't really kind of figured it out. We had an idea for the name Ravens Hall because, both the Dutch, and one thing we knew early, right, though, was I knew I didn't want to be the lone head, and I know Osa didn't want to be the lone head, and I was just like, we needed to have our we had to have a 4-way dance, right? So we had to have 2 heads, or 2 patriarchs, 2 matriarchs, or as we like jokingly now, primarchs, because people caught on to the joke of the raven, right? So, but so that was a thing, and that's still really, I'm really glad that was a decision, because I was like, if I want to go be king, or you go be king, or we need to be able to run, not fall apart. And Ivan and myself, and even Yanka and Osa, we weren't really joiners when it came to some stuff, so we really were apprehensive about. And we've watched a lot of groups nuke, just explode, huge groups. And I came in the SCA, Rolling Thunder was this monstrous thing.
Yeah.
And I remember Ogden Bajra and these big, just monstrous households. Even the Lance Connects, I think at one time, were like, this just huge. And Ivan and I, we thought, oh man, well, we're both knights. Maybe we're gonna have a lot of squires. So we'll be a fighting unit, We'll be like, we're going to be the Roffenheim fighting unit for the barony. That was the original idea. And we kind of tried, like we did, but I don't have a lot of squires, and people don't want to learn from me. I'm scary. Ivan's the nicer one. His wife will tell you Mel's an asshole, but Ivan's nice. He's my best, one of my best friends. So I love him either way. But yeah, and so we went along like with a little bit of stuff. We still weren't quite figuring it out, and then we said to Ivan, like, hey, so I got this idea. I want you to tell me if this is a really bad idea. Like, I think it might be too corny, because we already had the idea we already had the heraldry, so that was like something we figured like pretty early on. I was already like, 40K Raven Guard, take the black, turn it red, we're done, right? It was just like kind of like, this is the coolest raven there is out there in the world. This is the one. Like, I wanted that like spread eagle kind of raven. And I came to him it was actually the Estrella with the Haboob.
Oh
shit.
Yeah. And I go, hey man, I think when you become a member of our house, like, because we already had this whole idea, like you come in and you have a mentorship period of time, and then you become a full member. And so I think when you actually become a full member of the house, you should get a cloak. And it should just be like a red cloak with a white raven on it. And the reason I like a cloak is because when people come to me and they go, hey, what's the one thing in the SCA I should get right away? I go, like, if you're getting ready to go to an event, like a war, I go to like a surplus store, buy yourself a army blanket, like a, blue or red or something army blanket. That's what you're going to buy.
Oh.
Because you can use it as a blanket and you can use it as a cloak. You're going to go to emergence while you're there, and you're going to spend like $10 for like a $10-15 for some kind of neck clasp. Boom, you're done. It can be a cloak, and then when you're done with it at night, you put it on your bed, and that's what they were, right? So, and I was like, that's what we're going to have. Let's have our like Varangian Guard kind of cloaks. This is where mistakes were made. So, because this is why I said sometimes I get other laurels involved, and it sounds like a great idea. So we're like, oh yeah, he loved the idea, and I'm thinking Dungeons and Dragons. I'm not gonna lie. This was like the most Dungeons and Dragons-y Sons of Anarchy thing I'd ever come up with at this point. So he goes and tells Yanka and Osa, and they both love the idea. And then they go, okay, let's see what Wander thinks. And Wander, she liked the idea. And she's like, I'll make the first one. And we're like, okay. So I sent her this. She shows up at like the next gathering with this, like the one she's wearing to this day. And Ivan and I looked at each other and went, oh, mistakes were made. Like we have really screwed up, because that's like a 400-hour thing, now. So, but I that's a long, that's just a funny story. We tell it every war, and there's a lot of people who never get to hear that story. But, like the camp, it was, a lot of it was, our camp is, I really wanted to do a really period kind of camp and really have a theme. There was nobody really was doing just like, the Lance Connects do a theme. Theirs is a Lance Connect theme. But I really hadn't seen anybody in our area do it. And I had been really inspired by, I went to Australia years and years ago, and it was like when Vikings You Like were still a thing.
Yeah.
And there was a camp, and they had a scald night, and they were drinking warm mead, and I thought their camp was so upper awesome. It was all like Viking tents, and they did basically all kind of like a Viking heritage night. And that actually was a thing in Australia for a while too. And I had floated that idea with Ivan, and he loved the idea too. And we just made it, that's our thing, is like a Dark Ages, let's do a Dark Ages camp. It's not that we're saying you have to be not Dark Ages to be in our, that you have to be Dark Ages to be in our household. That's completely not true. It was just our camp, at least for the courtyard, that's what we're going for.
Yeah.
And that was our mission. And that I would say when you have parameters, when you have like a box you have to play in, you get really creative.
Yeah.
And so once we had the box figured out, then we started to play with everything else. So that was when then I saw what everybody thinks we came up with those fire pits. No. So this is the pro wrestler in me. I don't steal, I research and I bring into my territory. So in pro wrestling, there's an area time before the WWF explosion in 1985 or 84, where it was territories. And in territories, what would happen in one territory would then, that same guy would come and do it another. So like things like, guys, Hulk Hogan is famous for Hulkamania. He didn't come up with Hulkamania. There was a guy named Austin Idol who had Idolmania. Austin Idol was big, blonde, looks a lot like Hulk Hogan. And he was in the South, and Terry Bonet, he stole that. He ran with that gimmick, and he made it big, right? And so we didn't invent those fire pits, but we've made those fire pits big. So we Hulk Hogan those some bitches, except for without the racism. So, but like, yeah. So I had the idea for the fire pit because we can't dig any, anything in the ground here, right? We can't have those kind of fire pits. So. And honestly, it's the same idea you would have if you were to do a lean-to, like a, kind of a lean-to over a fire on the ground. So we saw a really awesome guy from the West had it, and I asked him, "Hey, how'd you do that?" He gave me the plans, and we modified them, and then Wolfgram, whose birthday was yesterday, so happy birthday belatedly. He made them for us, and that wasn't even our first fire pits. We had other fire pits before, but that was the ones. Those are the ones we're famous for. And what reason I liked about it is because they're tall and they cast light, So there's a lot of kind of stuff. There's a lot of little things. So we, the mead, that was something like Ivan tells the story about the mead. Did he tell it on your? You probably didn't tell it, but so he tells. We tell that every war, and you have to come to our camp to get the story of why we do warm mead. So, but so we're famous for the demos, but like 1 year at Southern, we had a forge. Actually, we did it at Australia too. It's a lot of work. We're blessed to have really talented artisans that are willing to show their stuff.
Yeah.
Well, this year you guys had the ovens,
which was amazing.
Yeah.
And that was awesome.
So my wife tells me I have a problem in that I see a tree and I'm like, I want to cut that tree down and split it up, right? So like I love chopping wood. And Magdalene she wanted to do that. She wanted to do those ovens, man. And there's that encouragement thing you were talking about, right? And I was like, all right, you do it. I'll make sure you have enough wood. And I did. I cut down more wood than I ever did. And I had a ton of wood, so she would have enough to run those ovens. I think I brought a cord or more, a legit cord, not like a front cord, a legit cord to war. And there's my redneck in me talking front cord. So yeah, so it was a legit cord. Yeah, and knowing the difference. So it was a legit cord of wood, which is a lot. And we went through that whole wood. We went through it all. I know. I take it back. I probably brought back enough for like maybe Walmart to sell 4 or 5 bags. But
so I love y'all's fire pits. We had them up at Highlands War when Ivan and Yanka were crowned, and his propane setup, because we couldn't have fires up there. His propane setup
that was a smart idea.
Perfectly right in the middle of those, and I was like,
oh.
That was nice.
No, we actually talked about that because like we're like, if this becomes a thing where we can't have fires all the time, we're gonna be we already had a plan, like if we ever couldn't have an event with fire pits or with actual fire, we were gonna be like, all right, someone needs to give me some plans so I can put those in the fire pit again. That was also, though, I want to say that was a war that we got. That was a fun event, but also like a shitty event. Literal horse feces.
Yes.
There was a lot of water flowing through a lot of people's tents.
I remember.
And there was literal horse feces. So.
Yes, because they had us right in the middle of the corrals, or what was corrals. Please shut that door. Thank you. Sorry. Tiny Satan.
That dog telling something.
Yeah, Tiny Satan has discovered something that's irritating her. So that war was kind of interesting. You know, I literally watched the floor in my tent look like a waterbed.
You know, and we can talk about it in that we didn't like it, but there's always something about those ordeals that I like. Like I love those ordeals like you go through, because like one of my favorite, like I like this year Estrella was okay, but 2 years ago Estrella, that was a thing.
Yes.
You know, and I had brought a lot of firewood for that war too, and I built the log road.
Log path.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah, and I was like,
awesome.
And I'm like, and I was like, well, somebody else like started the idea, and I just triggered me. You know, they do this in Novgorod, and I just started blah, 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 and all the way through, and it's all that wood, and then I didn't want to leave it on site, and I didn't want to take it home with me, so I was like, well, I'm gonna burn this wood. So then I figured out how to dry it up. I had this whole kiln drying system going on, and I mean, so some people like that happens, and they just go, and they just want to like put their head over, and just like, me and like Ivan and I are like, okay, cool. Let's just embrace the suck and move on. And we just have a good time no matter what. It's like, okay, well, I can't fight. It means I could drink more. Like, like means I could, this means, I mean, nobody's driving, right? There's no chances of a DUI. So it's noon somewhere when I woke up, right? So, I mean, mud is just fine if you're drunk. So like we went to town. We emptied as many kegs and meat as we could, and we just had a good time. And I mean, we're all adults, and it's but you just embrace the suck, and that was how it was this last year. And the only aggravation, was getting things out of the parking lot for some people. But other than that, man, whatever. I mean, we're all old hats. Like if you didn't learn from the first time, you quickly learn the things that you don't do well, and then you adapt and you do better. And I've learned to pay attention to fields with a lot of horse manure.
As we've sat here talking, I'm realizing how much of my SCA life has a story of Ed in it. I'm sitting here thinking about this, and I'm like, I remember y'all were just really starting to get Roffenheim. Y'all had built y'all's big hall, but you hadn't done all the perimeter setup and everything. And I remember I came charging into your camp and took over your grill. I'm cooking up something for you guys, and Magdalene asked me to come over and run the grill. And I remember laughing that, yeah, leave it to me. I'm just going to storm right into Duke Ed's camp and take over his grill. Get out of my way. I'm taking over your grill.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So that was the year. Was that the chicken kebabs?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Preparation is a thing. So yeah, we were like, so this is why we prepare all the food before we come. Yeah. So I give Magdalene grief about it every once in a while, because like, you know, I'm never against people cooking. Like we are really about like just one pot meals. And I've been listen, y'all can cook. Hell, you can prepare it all here on site. Just don't make me wait 3 hours for dinner. Like, like that's the key. Because I'm a big dude, and when I get hungry, that Snickers commercial ain't really it isn't far off, right? Osa would tell you. Yeah.
I mean, with Hangry Ed.
Yeah, Hangry Ed is not a pleasant guy, and it's not my fault. It's just like I want to eat something, and I don't care what it is. It might be your head, like. Yeah. I mean, I've been watching this show on called Alone.
Oh yeah.
I don't really like reality shows, but this is like one I was like, I'm taking a break. And they're like, oh, it's like Survivor Man, but it's a competition. Okay. And then I like after like a couple of days of that, I was like, that would be like 2 days. I'd be like 5 days without food at this point.
No,
that camera would be gone. Like the camera would have been broke at some point. Like, because I've been like, shit, I broke the camera. Yeah.
So now that we have had a pause in our world, have you given any thought as to when we're able to come back together, what your next grand adventure is going to be?
Bad ideas.
I kind of want to be king again. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Yeah. That's always in the back of my head. I miss talking to people in that role. I miss the things that I could do. I certainly understand why guys like Morgan or Uther, and even my brother Craven and my sister, right? Like I understand why they like to be crowned so much, you know, and it's been a while, you know, and so it'd be fun to kind of get the band back together, you know, so to speak, and do it. I don't know. I know I still have it in me, you know, because I know how hard I can train and all that. I still have so much to do with Raffenheim. Like that's a thing, and you know, we need to make a third fire pit, and we need to really figure out how to do the beer lounge right. You know, the beer, that's a thing. We got to get that nailed down. We're trying to figure out how to do a mobile fire, like an easy setup or like transportable oven, because like we want to be able to bring ovens all the time, because that was awesome.
That's a lot of work, man.
Yeah, but I mean, but that's a challenge, right? So I want to set up like Raven's Roost, like in camp at least one time for the war, and like we can have a bardic night, maybe, you know, like one of the nights where it's like, you know, where all the bards can come and give a concert. You know, they did that at Estrella, and because we have Thomas in the house, and we have some Runa, and they're really awesome bards, and they want to perform. You know, my performing is around the fire with mead, and they want to perform in a concert style thing, and I don't want them to have to go somewhere else to do it. So, you know, I was like, I have an idea for that. And so I'm always like 3, 4, 5, 8 years down the road on what I want to do. We just put a pause on it. We didn't make it so, I mean, my plans are probably the same. Honestly, I mean, I don't think it changed. This was probably the first thing I've ever not seen coming. I mean, well, I saw it. I saw it like in February. I was like, oh, we're in trouble. Like this will be the last SCA event we have, you know. And I was almost right, because I think we did Great Home.
We did.
Great Home.
That was it. You guys stepped up, and then
boom, close it down.
Yep.
Good thing. Good thing it's you guys, because you're like, I mean, you're seasoned. You guys are seasoned Scadians, and like you're not easily riled by things. And I mean, I think a lot of people kind of settled, pulled back. We were talking about, the couple months, but Magdalene's always like, you're always thinking down the road. You're always like planning. You're always seeing these things, and I'm always trying to avert the catastrophes. I think my hope is that we as a SCA come out of this maybe stronger. I don't know if we'll be as big. And that's the pro wrestler in me, because people find other things to do.
Yeah.
And it's not the you or me, it's not us, it's not the people here, and it's probably not even the people watching this right now, right? Because we're all the people that are going to be back, and we're going to be back fine. And it's actually not going to be the people out on the fringe. They're not going to be the ones we lose either. It's going to be the middle ground folk, right? And the ones that could have gone either way, and they never went. They were always still swimming in the river, and they hadn't decided. It was me, 15, 16 years ago. Yeah. So, I mean, those are going to be the ones. They're going to be the ones I would love to talk to. Those are going to be the ones I'd love to make them understand and believe, just like they're just as important, and I love being with them just as much as, maybe more so, because I don't get to see them as much, right? And so, I'm always looking for new experiences. Hello, mushy mushy.
Sorry.
No, it's fine.
My bad.
I'm always seeking new experiences. So we are experiencing. We're all in a new experience right now, and that first SCA event, we come back. It's gonna be. We're all gonna suck at fighting. We're all gonna be trying to decide if we should just run up and hug each other. I mean, that's
it's funny you say that, because earlier today, and it wasn't until somebody said this that I realized that we are a very physically affectionate group. We hug, we hold hands,
we touch a lot.
Yeah. Honestly, that was a really big, when like the Me Too movement, and I certainly don't like talking about politics or any kind of thing like that, but that was certainly a concern. It was like, man, the SCA is such a hugging, like I joke with Ari and Yanka and that we're all equal opportunity ass grabbers, right? And but it's like, oh no, but I mean, the people that grab my ass are the people that I can grab theirs, right? And at least I, like, in my head, I know the Rolodex. But I mean, there was those conversations like, have I ever, right?
Yeah.
I'm a hugger. Like I'm it's like well documented hugger, right? So I don't care what gender you are, what binary I don't care. Like, you want to hug, let's go. Like I love to hug, and I'm not afraid to hug people. And it's the SCA is so tactile, and I think that's the weirdest thing to miss right now is like the touch. I'm blessed to have a son and a daughter that love to hug as well, so I get my daily hugs from them. But yeah, man, I mean, it's like that's the weirdest part, and that'll be, I think, a really interesting aspect of the society coming back, where we're like, can we hug? Like, are you gonna be? Do we want to? You want to hug? Are you cool with hugging? Or you want a fist bump? You want a handshake? Like, what? So because like you and I, like, we see each other, like it's almost impossible for us not to be like hug on, right? Yep. And there's a bunch of people like Deb in Phoenix, like, Mrs. Deborah, man, is like hug and kiss. It's like it's on, right? And there's just, I could list hundreds of people that the first thing I want to do when I see them is hug them. Yes. Right? In this kingdom and out, right? Casca, like, he and I can't, like, we see each other and it's like two giant dudes, get out of the way because we're gonna hug, right? If you're in our way, you're gonna get in a hug sandwich, right? Like, you're the meat between two giant meat dudes. Like, we're gonna squeeze. So it's just like, yeah, that's an image, right? Just think about that. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, that's the hardest part, and I can't be the only one. Like,
no, you're definitely not. We were talking about it earlier today, and I'm a hugger, and for me, I see people, I'm like, oh,
what do we do now?
Yeah.
What do we do?
Yeah, because I've seen, you know what though? Like, I mean, that's the thing is, like, we live in an area where we're really not experiencing. I mean, we're really not experiencing much of an outbreak or anything. So I'm less concerned, and I'm certainly less concerned about people I know.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I'm not running up to hug strangers at a Ace Hardware or something, but I'm sure that if I saw you, it'd probably be pretty hard to us not to hug. I'm just saying, it'd probably be like, get in here, I'm gonna hug the crap out of you right now, right? And it's just that's way it's gonna go, you know. And it's like, I mean, I remember seeing Yanka like at the gym one night, and I was like, I just want to hug you, you know. It's so hard, and it's just it's like, you know, that's just a part of me. I'm very tactile, I guess. I get it. My family always was. Like it's just, you know, some people aren't that way, but luckily for me, I know a lot of people who really are, you know. So, and that is the SCA, because how many times are you just like, we're at a tournament, right? And all of a sudden you're like randomly sitting there and you're like picked up from behind and you're like hugged, right? And it's like somebody you haven't seen, they like snuck up on you, like Sean South is in town and he snuck up on you, or, you know, or even Morgan, our king, like he's terribly good at sneaking up behind you and getting you. And he does it to me, and I'll try to get him. And, you know, there's pictures, you know, of many of us like hunting to try to get to that guy, you know. And it's gonna be the same way. We're gonna be like the apex. I'm an apex predator, and I'm gonna get that guy right now. Watch me sneak up on him. Oh, who blew it? God damn it! God dang it! Yeah, you know, like I totally had him, but no, that kid saw it and was like, "Oh my God, his head!" And then you all turned and you saw me making stupid faces until I ruined my moment. That's it. Yeah. So. Yeah. So but I mean, I'm gonna be like, that's it. Like as soon as we can have an event, man, I can't wait to be back. And I mean, there was a SCA Australia where I was like, free hugs. It was on the board. The Duke is in camp to give hugs because I couldn't fight. I think I'd had a shoulder surgery or the gallbladder or something. And it was like Duke's in camp for hugs because he can't do anything else. So yeah,
so Blake posted that we need to come up with some heraldic thing that we can hand out to ID fellow huggers for when we come back. Something that screams, "Hug me, please!"
You know, I bet you if anybody had it already, it's the Romans, because they had like graffiti for everything.
They did.
Yeah, I mean, like maybe they probably had a place that was like, this is the hugging spot. I mean, you know, I don't know.
Stick and you hug it, yeah.
Yeah, like I mean, they had graffiti for everything else. So
hell yeah.
I mean, yeah. I'm sure there are a bunch of people out there that know some Roman comedy. I mean, Zippy probably already knows that one. Somebody ask Zippy, he'll tell you. Like,
hey, that's a fact. We could probably reach out to him. Blossom says if she gets exposed because she hugged a friend, she died doing what she loved.
Yeah, you know, like, and I remember when somebody asked me once, did you regret like when I got blinded, right? And that was something I was glad that happened to me. And they said, if you had died, and I was like, man, I would have died doing something I loved. You know, if I get an illness because I hug, like I'm sure I probably got the flu or something for hugging somebody before. I'm sure I got H1N1 when I went to, I came back from West 12th night and I got at H1N1 and I was pretty positive it was at that event, right? And I'm sure I hugged somebody that had it or was carrying it and didn't know, right? So I don't care, whatever, you know. And because if that's how I go down, okay, you know, like yeah, I mean, if I was to die in a battle in the SCA, it certainly wouldn't be the worst way to go. And I mean, there's plenty of there's a lot of worse things that can happen to you than getting a hug, and that's how you got sick, you know. So I don't know. I mean, because sometimes even like maybe there was a dying person you hugged, right? And that was the last thing they wanted. So I don't know. Hugs are certainly, we probably have a lot less problems in life if we just all hugged a little bit more.
I agree with you on that one.
You
know, hugs are, it's funny because I discovered in January when we were at polling.
Yeah.
I'm holding Ari's hand. Ivan's standing next to me and I'm rubbing his back. And I realized that I was so anxious that touch with people that are my familiars, so to speak, help calm me down. Because the next thing I know, I got Yanka on one side of me holding one hand, Ari's holding the other, and we're just kind of standing there in this little cluster.
Well, and what's funny is all three of you ladies, you right? You're all people that do stuff with their hands when you're, and I can always like go, like to keep your anxiety level down.
Yes.
And I recognize it because I'm the same way. When I go build something, like when I'm building a gunpla or whatever, I mean, I can always tell if I'm really amped up because my hand might be shaking, you know, or whatever. And it's like, man, I really got to get my anxiety level down right now. And sometimes doing something with our hands, even if it's just like patting a friend's back or whatever, you know. I mean, it's just the thing, you know, and it's just maybe that's, you know, the SCA is full of us misfits, and we all have a thing, we all have a story, and the best is when we can all understand each other. If you sit and think about all the people around us that we connect with and that we love as much as we do, it's because we all understand the things about them, right? We understand their ethos and their pathos, and we understand what makes them them. And at the end of the day, that's what we really love about them. It's not necessarily what they are as much as who they are and what they represent, I guess, to our sphere of love and life, you know. I mean, I've known you guys for a long time, and it's like every time we get together, it's just like we have so much fun, right? I mean, I've been looking forward to sitting here chatting with you guys for a few weeks now, because I just know how much fun we're gonna have, right? And every time we get together, and it's never the same conversation twice.
No, it's not. You know, and it's funny you say that, because one of the things that's always drawn me to you is, you know, being aware of the fact that I am a force of personality. And I used to refer to myself as Hurricane Reagan, because I am a force of nature when I'm on a roll. But being with you, you don't tell me I need to chill out. You jump in there with me and go, "Woo, we can do this bigger."
Let's go bigger, right? And yeah, like I'm never gonna tell somebody to turn down. I'm gonna tell you to turn up.
Yeah.
Like accentuate the things that you're great at. Be louder at the things that you're good at, and that'll drown out the things that you're not.
Yeah.
Like, don't dwell on what you're not good at. Dwell on what you're great at.
Yeah.
You know, like I remember long ago, His Majesty Morgan came over to my house. He thought he was calling me out on a bluff. He was calling a bluff, he thought, right? And that was a legit thing. I had said, man, if you're ever in town, come over to the house and we'll go through some stuff, right? We'll work on some. And this is before he was knighted, before he ever won crown. And he came over, and it was just like, I don't know, a lot of people. He just could. He was telling me about things he couldn't do while we were kind of working on some training. And I finally just stopped and said, hey man, you know what? You should just go home and sell your armor. Just get rid of it all. And he was just like at me, like pause. And I was like, for the last like 15 minutes, all I've heard about you do is tell me all the things you can't do after everything I tell you to do. Well, I can't do that. I can't do this. I can't do that. And I'm like, all I've heard you talk about is what you can't do. Can't tell me anything you can do. So you might as well get rid of it. Because if that's all, no matter what, you're never going to have that in front of you. It's always going to be in front of you. That can't. And well, you don't hear that from that boy anymore, man. I mean, he's a monster. And so, yeah. And it was just like one of those moments, right? I remember just being like, so whenever if he beats my ass, I'm glad, because like that, I deserve it. That's my fault, right? Because he could have quit, and I didn't want that. And I was like, I realized who I was talking to at the time, right? So, and it was literally that, like, don't stop focusing on what you can't do. Just start focusing on what you can. Like, be the greatest aspect of that thing you're good at. You want to be better at that thing? Well, go be better at that thing, and stop worrying about the things that you're not good at, right? And too many people are always just worried about the stuff that they are not good at, or maybe that, I'm not the most physically gifted person. I don't care what anybody says. I just outwork. I have a really good talent for driving my ass to practice, driving myself to the gym, and punching punching away, right? Because every fighter, boxer chance, right? So no, I know all the things that I'm not good at. I'm just not going to dwell on those things. Right.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go be a knitter, like, because I know I'm not gonna be good at knitting, because I don't like yarn. Like, the idea of yarn underneath my fingers is like fingers down a chalkboard, right? Like, that's just it's not good. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do something else because I love the smell of wood, or I love the smell, like, there's other things that I could do. And so, if you want to be the best basket weaver, you want to be a really amazing basket weaver, you go be the best basket weaver you can be, and stop thinking about being something else. Like if you don't want to be that thing, don't think you have to be that other, like in fighting, you don't have to be a sword and shield fighter. You want to win crown with the pole arm, do it. Go be the best. Do it. Go be awesome at it. Just do it. But practice. Yeah, you're going to be on an upward hill. Guess what? I see with one eye. My whole life is uphill. Like every day I'm reminded of my disability. Every day I wake up, right? And I could dwell on that, or I could just be like, whatevs, right? And so there's a lot of people that we know that are all peers, that the reason they're peers, what they're good at is because that's what they've focused on. Like they went all in and they got louder at what they're good at. They got louder. You are loud at what you do, and that's what I love about you. Because like, why? Yeah, no, man. My mom, she was loud. She's loud. She was a force of nature at one point too. Somebody, and all she ever heard was like, "You need to stop being. You need to turn down, woman." Blah 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 blah. No, man.
Up until I joined the SCA and found, you and Ivan and your sister and Craven.
Yeah.
I've spent my entire life.
Yeah, I'm never gonna tell my sister to simmer down. No, turn up.
Yeah.
Everybody, turn up.
And
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, listen, maybe not everybody talks as loud. I'm not, and that doesn't. I mean, some people think when I say turn up, be louder, they think that's what I'm talking about. I'm not. That's not at all. But just be more on what you do. Like, let everybody know, or find a way for the volume to be turned up of what you're good at, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like, that's just the thing. It's like, I remember going over to your house and I was like, all these things that you were doing. I remember like, man, dude, Rune, you gotta let people know you do this stuff, man. Like, you're hiding this shit. Like, this is a sin. This is an affront to humanity. Like, how are you, like, come on, man. Like, seriously, like, you got a forge and you got this and you got this and you got this. Like, you got all this stuff sitting around, and it's just like, I didn't know you did that. And it's like, yeah, like, you're just, and it's like, well, be louder, man. Like, come on. I mean, I get it. You have her with you. She's like super loud, but her thing is different. Her gimmick is different, right? So it's like, it's the perfect like yin yang. It's what I love about it, right? So, I mean, Osa and I are the same way, right? She's not loud like me, but she's really good at other things, right? So she's amazing at the stuff that she's amazing at. So, and I can't be good at, like, she can read a room in a way I can't read. I can read people in some ways, but she can read a room and the things that, like, there's a lot of the success of Ed as like a king or even a duke. That's because she was like, psst, 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 in my ear, and like, oh, now I know what to do. So yeah, it's like, she's that awesome like manager, getting me, helping me defend the belt. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, everybody in Rothenheim, the reason you know about us is because I'm always like, hey, Raven, be louder. Realize your greatness, right? Realize your greatness.
It's funny that we're talking about this because we started the conversation earlier tonight about the boxes and the chests I gave you. And Domnall, in his infinite wisdom, posted one of the original ones.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah, see.
And
I should have got mine. Brought it in here.
Well, I was having that moment in my head where I remembered that there was a point that I was struggling with woodworking, no matter what Ivan was showing me, no matter what Richard the brewer was showing me. And I remember when you came and asked me to make you that second one, I sat there for a minute, went, what?
Yeah.
Are you sure you want me to make it?
Yeah.
But what you did for me right that moment is you had a faith in me that was lacking in myself. But because you handed me that faith for a moment, suddenly my own little flame went, ooh, here we go.
I'm glad.
That's something you do for people. I've seen it for years. You've done it for me, is where there's that little kindle and you just kind of go, and suddenly it burst for people, and I've watched it. You are a phenomenal motivator. It doesn't matter, arts, fighting, storytelling. I mean, you are a cult of personality.
Thank you. That was nice. You're gonna make me blush. So
oh yeah.
First time for everything.
15 years I've been trying.
I mean, my thing is I just love to make people realize their dreams and who they are, you know, and maybe they just don't know what their dream is yet. You know, like I stole it from an anime, but it was when I heard it in the anime, it was like what I had been saying for a long time. But there's an anime I talk about a lot called Gurren Lagann, or Tengen Toppan Gurren Lagann, and it's a big robot, smash, awesome. But in it, the guy, he's like an older brother to this like kid, the guy Simon and Simone, and he says, "Believe in the me that believes in you," right? And it's just like that thing. And I was like, yeah, that's kind of like what sums up a large chunk of like the whole Action Awesome thing, where Action Awesome really just means just do the thing, like just be the thing, like be greater than you are, do the great things. Don't sit and think about the things that you could do, just do.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, because man, we all could sit and dream. I mean, paralysis through analysis is a thing, and I'm a really good, I'm a master at procrastination because of paralysis through analysis. But I've always found that if I just start kind of, you know, chopping at the thing, like I just start chopping wood, or just start swinging, by the end, all of a sudden I'm like, oh hey, I totally know what I'm going to do. And sometimes you don't. I mean, sculptors talk about like sometimes they don't know what it's going to be until you start to sculpt. Well, wrestling was that way too, right? Like I'm a wrestler that likes to call it in the ring. I'm not a real big fan of like having the whole thing planned out. I'm old school. And because it's like, well, what's the crowd going to be like? What's the crowd? What crowd do we have tonight? How are we going to play to the crowd? And one of my last matches I did in that comeback, that little comeback that you guys came and were part of, I did a match with a really old, great vet. And we did a thing, and it was just the two of us. And we were the oldest guys on the card. And it was like, how long could we go without bumping? Right? Like, you know, and it was like a lucha show and all these young guys, and they're like high flying. And I had these sorority girls. It was like, this wasn't even a wrestling crowd. And we had these like people in the front row crying because they thought he was like literally killing me, you know? And that was just, it's just that magic, you know, how can you, whatever you can do, like to make somebody believe. So will be it in a wrestling match, or be it in an environment where it's like arts. I love to see what people are doing. I love to hear their stuff. I like, you give me 30 minutes, I'm going to make you believe that you can do anything if I'm talking to you, right? I mean, they might leave and they don't do it, but I'm sure going to get a chance at it if I can, especially if I see talent, you know, like there's some people that just don't realize. I mean, you didn't realize it, right? There's some people that are just so like Ari, she picks up something, she's just really good. It's scary, right? Like she does it, whatever she does it like master quality right away. And it's like, but she wasn't always that way, but I mean, her dad is amazing, right? So she's been doing this stuff. So the problem is we're seeing Ari after she's done a ton of things, right? But nobody's actually that good really first time, right? So there's a body of work there that, you know, she's a second generation Scadian. So, you know, and that's unfair, but she's also just ridiculously awesome and steals the awesome out of the room all the time. But there are those people, but there's some people that's not. I mean, Ivan, he's a Duke. First time I watched him fight, I was like, oh boy. Okay, well, we got some work to do, right? You know, like you're really not good at this. Let's fix that. And he's the one that tells the story, you know. So he opened it up when he gave me this line. He told it. I hadn't told that story to anybody ever, and he tells it all the time. Like, yeah, you just like. But I was like, I loved him, man. I just saw it. Like he has that. There was just so many. There's so many guys that I like, Dom and kind of. I mean, there's a lot of artisans, though, right? I mean, the list of artisans that I have watched them do amazing things. And it's just, I love to encourage people, and I'll never, I mean, maybe my hope is they'll be on my deathbed, my last, you know, and I get to have that cool movie moment where I get to like make somebody swear some kind of deathbed oath that they got to succeed at something, because that'll be the coolest thing. Like, swear to me you'll do this thing, you know. You know, that would be like the most Ed thing ever.
Oh my God.
It is the most Ed thing ever.
It'll be like this: you're gonna promise me, because if you don't, my cremated remains are somehow going to come back, and I will come, you know, like it will somehow mix with water and mud, and I will come back as a golem and hunt you down.
That's what I was going to say. I was like, oh, we're mixing a golem.
Until you accomplish this.
Yeah, until you accomplish your goal. And then it's going to be like some Japanese golem kaiju movie.
Yeah.
Until you do it. So,
Oh
yeah.
my gosh.
So, all right, I went there. So, yeah.
You went there.
But that's what, I mean, it's what I love. I mean, I love that you noticed that about me, that, you know, and I have been able to do that for you. And Alora, like when she got her pelican, that was, she talked about that, and she made me cry, you know. And it's, I love it when people turn it around on me and make me cry, because I've made plenty of people cry, I guess, over the years.
You have.
And so I do appreciate it. So,
Well, we thank you so much for joining us tonight. You know, this is a whole side of you that people on the outside don't always see.
Yeah.
And that it's kind of cool to have that moment. I've seen it. You and I have been friends for a very long time.
Yeah, well, you're really good at getting me to make me lower my guard. Okay. Yeah. You know how you like, I mean, I could try to be as prim as proper as I want around you, and it just ain't gonna happen. Like 5 minutes around you, and like I'm probably gonna be like, hold my beer, you know. I'm going in. Like 5 minutes. I mean, that's being conservative. That's liberal. I'm giving liberal, because like probably it's more like 60 seconds. Because it's like I'm gonna see you do something, like, oh hey, here we go.
Oh, here we go. Oh, here we go.
Oh damn.
Next time I grab Bertha, I'm just gonna throw you in the front seat with me. Here we go.
Yeah. It's like, well, we went and bought a new car. Like we went and got the new Durango, and I told him, I think Thera will appreciate this Durango. So yeah, it's almost like this may be too much car, but I think Thera will think it'll be okay. So it's not a V8 though, so that was another joke. But it could tow. It's not a truck though, so the next truck is like 2,500 or something. Yeah.
Oh.
All right.
And it definitely ain't gonna be no V6.
No.
Yeah.
That
So,
doesn't work.
but yeah. You're really good at getting me to be the Henry that goes amongst the camps, you know.
Very good.
So here
Awesome.
I'll tell you a story, and a lot of people don't know this. A few people in my camp have known that I did this. So one of my favorite medieval movies of all time is Kenneth Branagh's Henry V. Okay, so that was like one of the things I saw as a kid, and I was like, this is so cool. And I always wanted to have my Henry moment. And so when I was king at Estrella the first time, I went out one night with nobody, and I didn't have the crown, I didn't have anything, and I was like cloak over my head and like did it. And I went to all like the fringiest camps, and there was a few people that they recognized who I was, and they kept it quiet, like they knew. But it was really neat. I've always believed that, some people, like, they'll see the crown and they won't show me who they are, and so it was like I wanted to go out and see if people were really having fun at my event, because I didn't run it, but it was my event, right? That was kind of how I thought about it. And so it was really neat to kind of go out amongst and have my Henry, my Henry V moment, I guess. It's kind of going through the camps, and then the next day I'd roll into those same camps and give out OAs and stuff. So and it was like, it's one of the ways I would find out you know, because we've given away a lot of awards. I mean, I remember, like, I think it was 200 and something the first reign, and over half of those were AOAs, and over half of those AOAs were people who've been participated in the society for over a decade and had nothing.
Yeah.
You know, and that was always the thing. I'm always trying to find those people, because like they're really important, and sometimes that's how you get the people out of the middle or even off the fringe.
Yep.
Right. And you shouldn't have to. You don't have to play at the center court. You don't have to participate. I don't know why I call it play. Everybody else calls it play. I really consider it participating. But you don't participate. You know, that doesn't mean that you're not like giving to the society. Like your mere presence, first off, is giving. But maybe there's plenty of people that they give hospitality in the camps, or they make things, or you know, and like they're making their meat or their beer, or they're making largesse, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? And they just don't, you know, like how many AOAs I gave away were actually just me finding out about somebody. I had no award recommendation. I just found out. And it was because it's that stuff. It's that digging, right? That digging, and like, who's that person? What's that? I see this person doing this thing. And it was just being present all the time, trying to be present and not trying to be separated from it.
So you had a substantial influence on the way I began to view the society. Probably 3-4 years after I got really active. One of the things you had said to me way back when is it takes all of us to see the little things. We were talking about award recommendations or just simple thank yous. And at that time, I logically understood what you meant, but it didn't have a significance in my world until I became a peer. Then it took on a completely different significance, but those words always rang a bell for me in the back of my head because it was the truth. I may see something that no one else will ever see. And that little thank you goes a mile down the road to keep somebody involved, keep somebody active, you know, because they tuck themselves off away in the back.
The easiest thing, the two easiest things to do is to smile at somebody and say thank you.
Yep.
Yes.
Right. I mean, it takes no energy. And even as king, I would always say thank you, please. You know, maybe that's just the way my mama raised me, but you know, I was king because they believed, and they wanted to let me be king. Like, yeah. really be king, right? Like, that's the thing, is like, yeah, I want a tournament, but am I going to be your king? Like, really your king at this moment? Or am I just going to be the guy you're going to wait for me to get off the throne in 6 months? Yeah. But am I going to be that guy that when I leave, it's going to be like I died? Right? Is it going to be that important to you? And yeah. That's the thing, right? And that's a really neat thing that, like, that little thought I gave you still sticks with you. Yeah. Because like Magdalene and a few people, you know, I've had great teachers too, and friends, like they'll point out and they help me open my eyes to a lot of the stuff that I've learned, right? Mm-hmm. Alex the scribe, who is no longer here, but she really kind of formulated the reason our kingdom is so great at scribal arts, and she was around, like her and Jennifer Chathui, like my first reign, and like they were so good at like helping me find those people, you know. Yeah. Find the people in the back. But you know, you talk about you can hear me talking, you know, but also those things, like I'm also talking to those people in the back too, right? They may be in the back of the hall. They came to an event and they think that the king isn't actually going to talk to them. But what they didn't realize is, like, I see them all the way in the back and I'm actually talking to them, because the people in the front, like I'm going to talk to them too, but it's that connection to make. Yeah. how can I make it and how can I cement it?
So, got clarification from Ari. 275 in reign 1.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It is. That is a lot.
And I think like over half of those are AOAs.
Nice.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, and remember those AOA, the way we gave out AOAs were different than any other reign too, right? Because we laid on hands. You know, that was the church part. You know, like we declared somebody a Lord and Lady of Aidenveld.
I remember.
And we always have like we always knew why we were giving the award away. Like we knew what the person did and what they were doing and who they were with. And we knew something about them. And so, and I wasn't telling them, I was telling everybody else. Right? I was making sure it was loud enough that the person in the back of the hall knew what this person did. That's a thing. And I still wish others would do that. But the books, you see, you know, do you guys use the books? Because I know a lot of reigns used books, little books in the throne. That came from us. That was a thing. And I remember Duke Aaron Graves, he was my crown prince, and he had one crown and he's sitting there and all of a sudden he sees me look at the book and put it back down and he goes, "That's how you do it." Like, you know, that's how I knew everything about everybody, because I had written it in. And just writing it in is like instantly puts it in my brain, but it would just help me like, because also Osa and I would split up the awards. She would do one, I would do one. So we had like, we booked the court like a wrestling or a boxing match, you know. So we had it booked. We always had a booking sheet, you know. We didn't call it that, but that's essentially what it was. And it was like Simon and Magdalene. They worked it with us, and my scribes. Thank God, I had people like Ari and Jennifer Thuy and Alex Scribe and all these freaking ridiculous scribes, because they were like, we just want to give out all these awards. And I was like, I'm gonna throw a lot of awards in. Like, can you do it? And they were like, bring it, you know, like challenge accepted. And I was like, all right, I can do this, right? So it was like because I remember like I would ask them like, are we going too much? Like, are you? And they were just like, no, because it was like I just opened up a dam that first reign, and they just could, you know. I was like, all right, how many awards can I give out in 20 minutes, right? And it was just like, you get an AOA, you get an AOA. But I mean, I felt like I needed to. Like there was all these people. Like I would give away awards on the battlefield, and I would just like be walking around, and I would just be like, my whole thought was, if I'm talking, it's court, right? And I could have this recorded later. Like I can just read off all the things I gave out, but if I'm like, I don't have to open up or close a court. I can just be like, you know what? I'm giving you I'm giving you an AOA, and there's a bunch of people around me right now, and they all see it. They bear witness. And then later we'd call it out, hey, Edward today at a fire gave this award away. And that was like the thing. And it worked, because people still talk about, oh my God, the king came to my camp and he gave an AOA. And it's, you know, you just by what you're talking about, it proves that it was right, because it meant something to you. And you're a Baroness now, and you're a peer, and it obviously meant something to you. And I hope it meant something to other people.
It did.
And that's why I'm really glad to do this, because you know the Ed, you know both sides of the Ed. You know the quiet Ed that can just sit and watch like a football game and not say anything, or the Ed that can be over the top. But then there's the theater Ed, which is the one that is in when he puts the crown on. Right.
Yes.
I never wear a crown. You know, it's a tell. If I have a hat on, either somebody's in trouble or I'm about to do something. So.
Yes, absolutely.
But it's fine, because it's like, well, let's get serious. I put the crown. I put my ducal on, and pitter patter, basket at her. You know. So
It's awesome though. I mean, I have your signature up on my wall of shame.
yeah.
I will never forget my flower of the desert ever. Because I parked in your parking spot.
Yeah, see? Flower just for doing that.
Well, Your Grace, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you. We could have done this for another 2 hours probably, but
We
everybody
could have,
easily.
you know, and I guarantee you we'll do it again.
Anytime you want me back, or even if you want to have Osa on, she's just as much fun. So anytime you want to have me back though, I'd love to come and sit with you two guys. I miss you both. and it's sad that I know that you're probably only a mile and a half away from me, but I miss you both. I love you guys, and I'm glad to have you as the Baron and Baroness of my barony, and I can't wait to see you guys again when we can have events.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for your support in all of our craziness and all of my crazy endeavors. When I go, ooh, and I want to do, and you go, okay.
Okay.
Oh, good.
So
Are you sure you're going loud enough? Yeah. Turn up the volume on that and go to 11.
yeah. So, but thank you. Just thank you for being you. And
Thank you.
you know, we appreciate it. And guys, thanks for tuning in tonight. This has been a blast and we appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, we'll be back in 2 weeks with, we get Mistress Ari next.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's good. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, she can go full redneck too. So.
Oh, she
Oh, yeah.
can.
Oh yeah. We're looking forward to it.
So tune in, subscribe to the channel, and we'll let everybody know. Y'all have a great night.
Good night.
Hey, action awesome, everybody.
Action.